CrasH Talk. Schoolboy Q's fifth album, dropping it his first one since Oxymoron 3 years ago,
Blank Face.
Blank Face,
2 years ago.
Oxymoron was 2014.
Yeah.
Man, it's been a while. Where's Schoolboy Q been?
Well, we were supposed to get this apparently last November, but then when Mac Miller passed away, he put it off. Obviously, they were really, really close friends, and that was, obviously a big loss for him. But in the lead up to that, and talking about that, apparently he scrapped this album or versions of this album, I think 2 times over. So he recorded a lot of material and really changed the project. Worked a lot. So yeah, that explains the 3-year layoff, and we hadn't had a layoff that long from him since he got famous. So it was not a huge deal in my opinion. I'm okay with more than like the standard 1-2 year drop, but it's nice to have Schoolboy back, obviously, because I think he's a big star that could still be bigger.
And he's part of TDE, and their artists, especially their top tier ones, seem to take some time in between their albums to let some hype build up, some anticipation. So I don't hate that either. I think it's actually there's a little bit of fatigue sometimes when they're dropping album after album. I know Anderson .Paak, who just dropped his second album in 5 months. I was much more excited for the first one than the second one. Anyways, shifting back to CrasH Talk. Oxymoron and Blank Face. I mean, I think Blank Face especially were really, really good, and just so much to like off of those. And I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to like this album as much. I probably wouldn't put it up there with those two. I think that those two are just a step above. But I thought there was a lot of really solid tracks throughout this. And listening to it like the first time through, I actually got kind of a Earl Sweatshirt vibe almost from like the sound on it.
Sure.
Earl's most recent album was, I guess, kind of lo-fi-ish in a way. A lot of like samples chopped together. And I wouldn't say that this is totally like lo-fi, but just like that overall like feel where it's like a little bit more infused from different genres. Like there's definitely some like old timey like songs in there. Maybe some jazz, some older R&B infused into this sound. I think that really worked for Q in a lot of ways. I think especially the one that we added to the playlist, which I believe was 5200, was one of those songs where like the groove on that and like that like guitar, like I don't even know what you call it, like that pluckiness around like the chorus was just so catchy. What did you think of this album, and what really stood out to you about CrasH Talk?
Yeah, I think ultimately it's Schoolboy's least conceptual album to date, and also his most commercial album, kind of following in the footsteps of the Black Panther soundtrack, J-Rock's Redemption. It's kind of been the TDE, and of course Kendrick's Damn. It's kind of been the TDE mantra right now, is to make these albums that are bigger to get more wide appeal. And I think that can be both good and bad. But for Q, after the layoff, as we mentioned, and after the, I think, hit off Black Panther soundtrack, what was it called? X, I think that was a really big song. I think it's his most streamed Spotify song right now, like his hottest song. So like Q's kind of been on the mind, but we needed him to kind of reintroduce himself. I think that's what this album successfully does. It's nowhere near as dense or as dark as Blank Face, which is funny that you compare it to Earl, because I think Blank Face probably reminds me more of Earl, just because I think he's much deeper on that, and it's more of an obtuse album that's, I think, hard to get or revisit in full. But CrasH Talk, I think, is kind of more like Oxymoron, where it's just a lot of different kinds of songs. Whereas Oxymoron, I think, kind of lean more into the banger aspect. Like I revisited this past weekend. I still fucking love that record. There's so many hits on it. And I think CrasH Talk's close, but probably, as you said, it doesn't totally compare. But for a reintroductory album that wants to be a little more commercial, I think it's quite successful.
I think that's a really good point about how this probably, it wasn't as cohesive a project, but he was definitely, I think, trying to get those hits, trying to get those songs out there. Like Chopsticks, it's okay. I don't really love the song that much. But
you're being too nice. I think it's bad.
Well, I think it's it's a song that's put out to be a single. Like it's
Yeah.
one of those songs that's on the album. It has Travis. It's just like, all right, we're gonna grab some attention here. Travis Scott's super hot right now. The song overall isn't great. Like, but the second single off it, Num Num Juice, I think is fire. Just absolute fire. I really enjoyed that one. And I do think, especially like Black, I didn't think was really that great on it, but he gets a lot of other really good features on this.
Yep.
Kid Cudi on Dangerous is phenomenal over the
Mm.
yep. And then he can hum with the best of them, dude. And then 21 Savage,
Of
I
course.
think gives a great verse on Floating. And even I really liked Ty Dolla $ign
Hell
and
yeah.
YG on Lies. I thought they were both fantastic.
I even like Little Baby on Water. I like Cardo's background vocals on the hook, and then Little Baby himself just kind of spazzes on it. So yeah, I think overall well chosen guests, but these are mainstream A-list rap guests, and that's not really something you would expect from Q. But I think this is, I'd imagine, probably the Interscope influence of it all, and them wanting to make Q bigger. That he's talked about this in the past, where after the success of Studio off Oxymoron, this smooth R&B cut, radio cut, big platinum hit, but definitely not like a Man of the Year, not an aggressive rapping banger, right? They kind of wanted him to repeat that on Blank Face LP, so he made Overtime with Miguel and Justine Sky. And I think this time around he did Lies because of Ty Dolla $ign, but you still have YG on there, so it doesn't sound like he compromised himself or anything. At least that's my read on it. It's funny. Num Num Juice, again, like not as conceptual as like John Muir of Blank Face, but because it's a quick 2-minute banger and it was the lead single, I think it was really smart thing to get this ball rolling, because we've been wondering like when we get this Q album, when are we going to hear, and I think that was a smart choice. And Chopsticks, it's funny, Chopsticks has been at the top of Rap Caviar like 2 weeks leading up to the album. It's still on the playlist now. And it's like, man, Chopsticks is one of those songs where Interscope, it just pays for Spotify for that top placement. It's like there's no curation going into Rap Caviar because they're just taking that big four label money, or big three label money, and like if they were curating, they're like, Chopsticks is not a song we should be elevating, but Interscope wants us to make it big, so we'll take the money and do it. So I was kind of just disappointed that Chopsticks was getting such a push, just because I don't think it's a good song. And like that kind of leads into, I think, my one issue with the album was there's 3 specific hooks. They're just lazy, man. And one of them is chopsticks, ... chopsticks, right?
Yeah, not great.
Like, I got the water, which I like that song, but that's still, or the very first song, Gang Gang, a song I like Q's verses, but the hook of whoop clean dope boy 10 times in a row,
yeah,
kind of boring. But overall, I like the album. It's good.
I almost wonder, kind of thinking it out and seeing the way that Q's albums have been going recently, if he's on like a one for them, one for me type deal, where like he's like, this is gonna be like the album that's for the label, and then I get to do my like our tour project, so to speak. Our tour. Maybe. I mean, just a thought. Anyways, I think we would definitely recommend this album, and we already added 5200 to the playlist, so check that out. And Num Num Juice. So check that out.